Buying a used car? Avoid costly problems by checking a car's history. Get a report instantly by entering the reg on carvertical.com.
Hello and welcome back to TGTV, and more specifically, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the day where we get technical with my Carrera GT. Now, I am at Reading, which is the home of Carrera GT kind of operations, Porsche GB, and also you've got Porsche's retail unit here at Porsche Reading as well. So I'm here on a dual-pronged visit. I'm here to see Cam from the sales team, which I'll churn a video out here because I've got some exciting news about a new car coming, but also my Carrera GT was delivered on a truck last week to the guys here for a major service, an engine out service. So the engine is now out. There's now a list of work that needs doing to it. So without further ado, we're going to get into it. We're going to get technical. So if you don't like bolts, screws, oil, grease, cogs, engines and bits like that, this isn't the video for you. But if you want to know what goes into a Carrera GT service and you want to know how much my bill is coming to and how that has been made up, then stay tuned because we're going to get into it. And this is a nervous moment for me because I don't actually know what has been found yet with the car. This is the first time they've looked at the car, and there's lots of scary stories about Carrera GT, so we're going to get into it. So warts and all, my final invoice is going to be put on the screen very shortly after we run through everything, so let's catch up inside. Right then guys, here she is. Please do excuse the fashion of filming here. It's going to be fairly rough and ready, but my Carrera GT is here and you'll see that the engine is out, and I've also got some paperwork here as well to go through. So the history on this car then. This car actually was new out of Bristol in 2006 and actually spent some of its life in Switzerland. The previous owner used to drive, believe it or not, to Switzerland, drive back and forth into Europe in this car. So it's done a few miles. It's had some work done in Porsche Switzerland. Actually, a good friend of mine has done a lot of the work. It's got a lot of specialist history, but overall a very straight car, or so I thought. And given the amount of miles I've actually done in this car, a shameful 400 miles in the past 2 years. I hadn't actually done an annual service on it last year. I've had the car now 2.5 years. I didn't do an annual service last year, so I thought it's now time to do the big boy at Porsche and get the engine out. So without further ado then, we're going to run through the costs on this thing, because a lot of you think that these things are very scary, and actually when we go through this you may well be right. So let's start at the top then. So that there then is your standard major service for a Carrera GT. It comes in at around 7.5 including VAT, and that includes engine out and all of these things here. So oils, filters, O-ring, sealant, blah blah blah. You can see all that here, all itemized. Now 7.5 grand is not ideal. You're supposed to do those every 4 years, and annually a service is about 1,800 quid. That is of course here at Porsche HQ, Porsche GB, they're kind of VIP operations. We do have other cars here. I'm not going to show you their license plates because they're not my cars, and we're going to be focusing on this one. So every 4 years you're supposed to do a major service, which is starting at 7.5 grand, and these are just your start for 10 items. However, as I suspected, as I'm sure you all suspect, that is not the full story. So this, to be honest with you, this was a lucky dip. I had no idea whether or not this car would need a huge amount of work, whether or not the engine was screwed. You know, it came through a very good friend of mine that's known the car from new, and he's vouched for the car. So I would have been surprised if there's anything major, but you never ever know with these cars that there might be something latent and fatal hiding. And we've got the engine here, so we're going to get into it then. Page 1 then. The overriding theme on this car is that there's a lot of kind of bolts and kind of little covers and things that over the years have not been replaced, or they've used non-genuine little bolts and whatnot, which is actually quite normal for these cars. You know, they don't always go to Porsche. So you've got things like at the top there, you've got brake cleaner, brake fluid, blah, blah, blah. But you've got a boot and glove box light not working. That is a fuse, you know, 2 quid for that. You've got the headlights actually, we're going over to the front. Headlights, when they started telling me about there being a problem with the headlights, I've just gone through with the amazing technician here, Paul. They started talking to me about the headlights there being an issue. I did get a bit of a sweaty bottom because, and do ignore the front of the car, it's fully Suntech PPF'd. Those are just fly splatters. These headlights are about 12 grand for a pair. So when they started saying your headlights are, there's something up with them, I didn't enjoy that, but it's literally just the beam pattern needs changing because it spent some of its time in Europe. The beam pattern has been changed, so that just needs changing, and that's 90 quid for that. Mirror switch inside the car, that's fitted the wrong way around, and there's incorrect rivets used to secure the spoiler drive. That is all not too scary. Coming over then, we've got some slightly more aggressive numbers there on the right hand side. So we'll come under the car then, and I'll try and put some photos on the screen as well. The ball joint, which is up in there, only on the driver's side, to the front left, up there in the middle, that is split. And you actually need a whole new arm. So this actually needs replacing as well. You can't just replace a little bit in there, which is pretty annoying to be honest, but that's the best part of £2 grand. Another thing the chaps have picked up on, this sensor crest here, just cosmetic actually. It's just started corroding. They all do it, but for a new one of those, that is 400 quid for a new one of those. I've said for the time being, you can leave it alone, chaps. We don't mind at all for that amount of money. Another little thing they picked up on, there's a tiny little mark on the ceramic brake there as well. Again, not something that I really need to do, and very, very common on these. Anything bigger or in the kind of on the face that would actually affect the braking and cause undue wear to the pads and actually cause chaos with the braking, you would actually need a new disc. And I'm pretty sure that is into nearly 5 figures for a new ceramic disc. So I'm quite lucky. It's just a tiny little mark down there. Pretty much just cosmetic. No need to do anything about that at all. So you can see in the middle there, then your steering track rod end dust cover is all corroded, and that is 162 quid for the pair of them. Okay, fine, not too bad. Could be worse. It's good when you can just replace these things, but when you start having to replace the whole unit, then it starts to get very, very punchy. Do you know what? Above all else, it's just really cool having a poke around a Carrera GT when it's up on the ramp with everything removed. Next item on the agenda then, we've actually got the under tray screw missing. So, lower the bits of the car here, come round. We've got a little screw down here actually, you just see it. Something wrong with that screw there. Very normal stuff, but that just needs replacing. So that is 180 quid by the looks of it. I don't know, quite aggressive. Next page then, we get onto the clutch. Now, many people bang on and on about the clutch on these, saying they're incredibly difficult to drive, and also clutches are £1 million. Clutches aren't that expensive on these. They're estimating the clutch on one of these things, if you wanted it done by here, the part alone is nearly 10 grand at the point at which I'm making this video, but the labour is where they get you. So a lot of the time it's best to do the clutch when the engine is out of the car, because the labour can rack up quite a lot on these. The labour rate on these cars, for one reason or another, is actually more than your standard 911s, particularly because I guess you've got the kind of the VIP specialist blokes who've been specifically trained on these cars to do it all. So there is a little bit missing from the clutch. Ordinarily, apparently, there are a lot more pieces missing from clutches, and clutches look a lot worse. I was alarmed when I saw it, but they said, you know, it's nothing hugely to worry about, and you'll easily be able to drive that until the next service, providing there's nothing else wrong with it. So if I wanted that now inspected and the clutch taken out and properly looked at, just the inspection for it, as you can see there on the right hand side, is 1192. Again, these guys though, they said, they're very, very honest here. They said, you know, you don't really need to do anything about it just yet. If it drives fine, you're happy with it, you're not going to do thousands and thousands of miles every single year in it, you'll be absolutely fine until the next major service, at which point you can look at it then, and at which point it might still be fine then as well. But that is just something that they always need to make you aware of. So not something I'm going to do this time around. There's absolutely no need for it. May as well get some more wear out the clutch. The clutch has actually got loads and loads of life left in it, so loads of bite, loads of life left. It's actually a relatively new clutch, so I'm not going to go replacing that anytime soon, because the last thing I want to do is go and replace basically a brand new item when I could probably do thousands and thousands of miles as it is. Next on the list then, we've got gear cable attachment, attaching the gearbox, not a major thing, just kind of little admin points really. 2 layers of adhesive fitted to the rollover roof seal. So that is, on here you'll see on that rubber ring a bit of adhesive there. Again, just a tidy up episode with that, just an age related thing there. We've also there got 4 new tyres needed as well. So not just tyres, but I need tyre pressure sensor monitors as well. They are £145 each for those, and we need new Michelins as well. These Michelins are from 2014, and there aren't really any other brands that make tyres for the Carrera GT, so new Michelins will be going on there as well. And you can see those on there as well, so that is coming to £2,000 for my new Michelins. Fantastic. Maybe I should have done a bit more brown nosing. I would have got them free like every single car spotter seems to get, but there we go. £2,000 on new Michelins. We've also got a load of dust caps, screws, coverings, and just general detritus from around underneath the car, where things have kind of been left off, or they've been kind of rounded, or just, you know, general wear and tear or non-OEM Porsche screws and covers and whatnot inside here. Look how cool this is. And this is actually what I noticed. All Carrera GTs have this handwritten on them, saying the destination of where the car was destined for. So mine being a UK car has that under there, but loads of kind of detritus and whatnot. But screws, you'll see, are actually pretty expensive. Screws, clamps, fittings, covers, blah, blah, blah. And we've also got something that was actually quite seriously wrong with the thermostat. You'll see there, it's £389. That is actually in here. So as part of the service then, they replaced this thermostat. That is actually part of your £7,500. But this part here, hopefully I'm not going to get told off by Paul for rummaging through his drawer. You'll see that down there, it's not going to be forming a completely tight seal, so this part needs to be replaced. And then when they were showing me all this, and they do this without telling you the pricing, they're kind of just going through it all, and I was worried. I was like, that looks like a fairly hefty bit of kit, but that's 400 quid for a new one of those, and that's a non-negotiable. That absolutely has to be done, so we'll put that back in there if I get told off or I lose something. So yeah, 389 quid on that as well. And whilst we're knocking around, this is what all the screws for an engine out service on a Carrera GT looks like. There you go. I'm going to stay the hell away from it. If I knock something over, things go flying all over the place. They've been very patient with me here. And we got more in there as well. One other thing I was going to say, and that's on the final page here. There is something to do with jacking bungs. Now, those that know about Carrera GTs will know that you can't just jack these things up any old how. There are jacking plates, and you'll see above the jack there as well. The jacking plates, I think they were missing. I think they might be at mine. I've got a box of stuff, but regardless, they're just going to replace them for me, I think, on here. It says no cost against them here, but there's loads of other bits and bobs, like bolt missing from battery cover. The other thing I'm probably going to get done, it's got a non-OEM battery in it. In itself, not an issue, but the battery, you'll see, this is the big cavity where the engine actually usually sits. The battery is a nightmare to get to unless you've got the engine out or you've taken the wheel arch lining out. It's a complete pig. So I don't know how old this battery is, so I'm probably just going to get the battery replaced just because we're in here, and if I get a dead battery in the next 4 years before the engine comes out again, I'm going to be annoyed. So I'm going to get that done. It's probably a complete mug off of the price. Porsche OEM one will probably be a few hundred quid is my guess, or maybe 600 quid actually. Had that reported to me on the WhatsApp group. Let's go and check the engine then. Engine time. So one thing that Carrera GTs can suffer from is camshaft pitting, and you will see pitting on these, typically on these areas here. I don't know if you can see that. On these areas here you can get some pitting. Now most of the cars in here they get coming in, they say, are pretty extensively pitted. Things like warming the car up occasionally, letting it run up to temperature, that is a good thing to do. But there is one of these here that has a little bit of pitting, more pitting on it. I think it's this one here. It's got a little bit more pitting on it than the other ones. Now, the guys here aren't worried. They've said at the next major service they'll have a little look at that. It does get a lot worse than that without causing any issues at all. So that's something to keep an eye on, but overall they're very happy with the car, and I'm very happy with the car as well. That could have been something that, to be honest with you, this was one of the main concerns I had. This could have been something where they had a look and they said it's all completely pitted, you need new camshafts, and I think 10 grand a pop, maybe, something like that. It's definitely, if you need to replace all of them, it's definitely in the tens of thousands, I think, maybe 20 odd grand, something like that. So not hugely pleasant, but if it's something you need to do sort of once in the lifetime of the car, on a car that's worth, well, probably £1.5 million now, it's not the end of the world. The other thing as well, they check here's the tolerances as well. So this is on the slightly looser side. Again, not something they're actually really too fussed about or too worried about. If they were too tight and the tolerances are too tight, obviously with heat and whatnot, you could get a big bang. But actually on the looser side, again, they're not too worried about that at all. So all in line with what they'd expect, and they're perfectly happy with it. No advisories or anything to do on that front, and something that will be looked at the next major service. So overall, actually a very clean bill of health. I was taking my life in my hands slightly by taking this in here. I've kind of been putting it off a little bit because I've been a little bit scared, and I thought, you know, I don't want to take this thing in here and get a 50 grand bill. I do know someone that bought a car off collecting cars, lol, and it needed 45 grand's worth of work. Here at Reading, got a 45 grand bill, but that was to convert it to UK spec with new headlights and new rear lights and blah blah blah. So the bills can get scary, but they often don't really. And if you keep on top of it and you bring it in here and they stay on top of stuff they know about year on year, the bills aren't that scary. Speaking of which, then, who wants to see the total? Should we do a grand reveal then on the total this time round? That is my bill. £16,660, considering that is the only bit of maintenance and the only bill I've had on this car since buying it, and it's probably gone up. Well, it's definitely gone up. I'm not going to tell you exactly what I paid, but definitely the price of a nice house in an increase in value since I've got it. I'm more than happy with 16.5 grand. That's absolutely fine, and that is made up of £7,300 in parts, and you've got labour, oil, tyres, and your kind of expendables in there at 6,568, and you've also got VAT in there of 2,776. We like a bit of VAT. There we go. That is a fairly rough and ready look round my Carrera GT and all the work that needs doing to it, everything they found. I don't know whether there's anything else you guys and girls want to see, but that is it. Pretty much, that's pretty much exactly it. They are very happy with the car. I'm very happy with the car. There's no signs of it being shunted. It looks completely original, unshunted, and nothing to worry about. So I'm very, very happy. Very, very happy. I think then I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for watching this video. Huge thank you to Porsche GB, Muriel, Paul for their patience with me and allowing me to look around and document some of actually what I don't actually think is really covered all that often online. This is a bit of a little exclusive here, and it's been amazing. The attention to detail and the levels that the guys go to here, it's more than vindicated my decision to take it to these guys and get them to fully look around it. Again, when you're buying a Carrera GT, everyone rings Porsche GB and asks them, do you know the car? Have you looked at the car? Have you seen it? And I think there's just an important stamp to get in the book, an important point in time for them to go over it, rubber seal it, and say, this is a good car, this is proper, we know it. And I aim to keep this thing for years to come. So stay tuned for the next video where the engine will be back in and I'm going to take it out. So thank you again to the guys here at Porsche GB, mainly for their time, because I'm not getting a discount on this. Before many of you think, oh, Tom's getting special treatment, I actually just have to pay that bill. There's nothing to it other than me paying that bill in full. So don't think I've done a video in return for a free service or anything like that. I wish. In fact, I might ask them in a second whether they'll do that, but I don't think they will. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye.